What's up, everybody? Thank you again for tuning in to the podcast, Week 6 College Football, Talkin Chalk. I'm your host, Alex Kaloje. Today I'm joined again by a pair of my colleagues at the Sports Degens in Rome. Rome, what's up, man?
Hey, how you guys doing tonight?
What's up, brother? And also Brian as well. 5-0 last week, huh, man?
Hey, yeah, I got lucky.
That's what I'm talking about. And we also have a guest that I am absolutely honored to have today, my boy Colin Wilson from CCH Picks. What's going on, Colin?
Cheers, guys. Royals tomorrow.
Hey, absolutely right. Colin, and this is the first thing that I wanted to ask you because, frankly, I'm curious. The CCH, obviously, you, Hayden, and Chris formed a team, a trio, to make picks. I want to know how this connection got started among the three of you. And the thing is, I just picture it as like a huge bachelor pad, and there's like Keystone Light neons everywhere, and you guys just talk about how exactly did this team kind of form or among you three.
It's funny what you imagine is exactly what it is because we've met up with each other a few times. We were in San Francisco earlier this year, and it was literally live. The three of us standing next to each other, live betting the Kentucky-Wisconsin basketball game. It was like a day trader stock convention, just on our phones and talking to each other. But about 2.5 years ago, I think Chris and I started hopping into each other's mentions about college football, and it was a really kind of like it was a really good combination of where he knows X's and O's, he knows how gaps are filled, he knows player personnel, he knows FCS teams really well. And me, on the other hand, I have a huge statistician background where I can tell you a trend that goes back to 1979, and I can tell you percentage of all the tickets on the games right now, and reverse line movement, and steams, and over-unders, and I can tell you everything about any team when it comes to a number, yet he can tell you everything when it comes to personnel. So when we got together last year, we started the CCH Picks Twitter handle, and we had our consensus picks. So if him and I agreed on something, it went pretty crazy last year. I think it was like 20-5 at one point. So it was, we had some success with it, and we're still rolling. And Hayden's kind of the boy wonder is he's always been a part of us, and he's so much smarter. There was this big Faden movement on Twitter a couple of years ago where he was just kind of the joke of everyone because anytime he would say something on Twitter about a game, it would go completely the opposite way. And we're talking like last second type shit in baseball games and hockey games. So, we called him our secret weapon because we would ask him what he likes, and we would go the other way, and it would make us money. So, no, we're all three, great friends, come from the same thinking, and so that's what CCH Picks is.
Awesome, man. Well, it seems like you guys click really well, and obviously being in touch with Chris and Hayden, both great people, you as well. So, like I said, it's great to have you on here. Real sharp guy, a guy that I've actually had the pleasure of writing with on the Saturday Edge as well. So another site where you and I kind of do our thing. We've been doing that a little covertly, as friends, but at the same time, right on the same site and giving our insight. So it's great to have you. Can't wait to dissect some games for Week 6 college football. But let's get into Week 5 and give our recaps. And Colin, we can actually start with you. How did last week fare in terms of wins and losses for you personally?
Yeah, last week went really well for me. Except for I would say for the Clemson game because I hopped on Notre Dame. I think one of my big tweets. Most people they talk about their wins and not really their failures. A big failure for me last week was that I hit Notre Dame 18-1 to win the national championship, and it was based upon the fact that I thought they had a defensive line that was going to give Clemson's offensive line a lot of troubles because I watched that whole Boston College game, and I'm not a believer in Clemson. They didn't get any extra power rating points from me. And I thought Notre Dame's front seven was going to shut them down. I'm not sure if it was weather. I saw so many wide receivers dropping footballs. You have to wonder if they were shaving to cut that. That spread just loaded up to 2.5. So people got 3, and then you see the game come down to 2 points. So I think I'll start off by saying a big failure for me last week was hitting Notre Dame live money line at like a plus 250, and before the game hitting Notre Dame to win the national championship. That said, I know that Notre Dame, with one loss, can still make the college football playoff, right? Because, they'll have so much public backing. If they can run through the trees of Stanford and they can go to Temple and they can survive USC with one loss, a respected loss to Clemson, they can still make it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good point that you said as well. You got USC, Temple, and Stanford, a trio of teams that if Notre Dame takes care of, then more than viable to make it into the national championship with that resume as well. So, you're not out of it yet, obviously. I watched that game, the end of the game. I didn't catch much of it. Caught the latter half of the third and fourth quarter. And what was it? It was, I wanted to say it was 21-6 or 21-3, and then Notre Dame ended up coming back and
21-3.
hitting the backdoor cover, and that's, the epitome of college football in a big game like that, where a swing like that is just, it's nothing that we've never seen before.
So and I knew they were going to come back because the money line live on Bet Online was never getting over plus 300. And it's kind of like the other night when the Seahawks were playing the Lions. The score was so close, yet you couldn't get the Seahawks less than minus 400 at almost any point of the game. So it's kind of like you knew that this one certain team was going to win or be back in the game. So, took a shot at Notre Dame. I knew they were going to climb back in. I just didn't know they were going to lose exactly by 2 points.
Sure. Hey. Nothing you can do about that, right, Kyle? Right. Brian, let's head over to you, man. You went 5-0 last week after being reverse swept 2 weeks ago. You picked it back up, went 2-3 the following week, and then you hit a big 5-0 last weekend. Talk about your plays and what happened exactly.
Yeah, no, the first play we went with last week is I faded my Wisconsin Badgers, took Iowa +7. I told everybody that I thought Iowa would win the game. I just don't trust the Wisconsin team without Clement. Stavi's a joke. He needs to go. Iowa is actually a really, really good team, and Ferentz has them pretty close to. They're going to make some noise. I don't think they're going to, obviously not going to win the Big Ten, I don't think, but they'll be competitive in a lot of their games with that physical defense, and as long as their QB doesn't make mistakes. So hit the Iowa +7. K-State +8 off a bye against a very overrated Oklahoma State team. Oklahoma State I think they're going to get trucked by West Virginia this week, but that's a whole other story for another time. I took that. Speaking of West Virginia, I took the West Virginia-Oklahoma over. We said it's either going to be 19-16 or a track meet, and midway through the third quarter, I thought it was going to be like 23-21, but then it got serious when West Virginia just kept turning it over and giving it to Oklahoma. Let Oklahoma take, I think they won by like 17 or something by the end. I went back to the well for the fourth or fifth, whatever, straight week with the UMass Minutemen. I said they get their first win this year, and they did it in very, very nice fashion, got shit done, hit the -3, and then we went back for the fifth play with another one of the old trustees with the Navy boys at -4.5. They dominated Air Force. Air Force just kept turning it over, and Navy used their diligent, good offense, ran by their leading quarterback, and they got it done and won rather easily.
Yeah, I was on that too. I love that game because first off, I think Air Force is on a crazy 2-10 against the spread against service academies. Plus, they're on a 1-18 straight up away from home. And I know the spread was 6, but I was on Navy too because that's not an easy offense to prepare for. So that was definitely that was a great hit. I was there with you. Well, and it was another one of those Twitter plays where everybody and their mother on Saturday morning is Air Force, Air Force, Air Force, and you're like, am I the only one in the room hitting Kansas State today? Am I the only one in the room hitting Navy today? So
no, I've been pretty happy this year because I watch you guys' picks and I sleep a little better at night, at least knowing I'm on the same page with the CCH boys because I know you guys are very sharp. And I wanted to say it's going to be nice having Colin on here because we thought Alex was Mr. Trends. Well, he's more Trends Junior to Colin. Colin runs the world of the trends. And I follow a lot of stuff, and people should follow it because it's very valuable when I decipher from pick to pick. So
the best is when you get to tweet animated gifs of Bill Snyder in the middle of games. That's the best thing.
Well, hopefully you get to it again this week.
Guy brings back a trend from 1974, and I'm Trends Junior. This is unbelievable. Hey, Colin. Hey,
Dream in 1974.
Hey, Colin.
Yeah.
Colin, how about you just start running the show? You can just start hosting next week. I'll just fucking leave.
The problem is I got my own show, and I don't even run it. Chris run it. I have to record Chris. So out of everybody on Twitter, Chris is easily the best Bob Barker. He could run any game show ever, So
he's a savvy character, man. He's a savvy character. I'll give it to him. Let's head over to the guy that bought out of a play a minute and a half into his right up.
Seniority rules, bro. Yeah, it's Anyways, howdy to everybody out there. It's great to have Colin part of the podcast today. So just recapping or rehashing really quickly, I believe it was a little bit of a confusing 5-play POD from last week. I believe, like Alex just mentioned, there was a buyout that was included, which ended up being the right decision as Baylor ended up trouncing Texas Tech. But let's start from the first play. I liked Minnesota to come into Northwestern at +4, and that was completely the wrong. I don't know if it was a wrong read, if it was just a bad play, but Northwestern showed that, again, they're for real and, continue to stay undefeated and ended up, I believe, shutting out Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a loser. I believe the second game that we were looking at, I definitely was recommending, I liked Georgia against Alabama, and that ended up being the wrong side as well, as especially the day of, there's a lot of money coming in on Alabama. It seemed as if a lot of people realized that Alabama was going to come in and have a strong showing and look to make a statement in that game as well, which they did. I was also recommending Tennessee. That was also a big fat loss, so I just want to move on from that because, frankly,
my Razorbacks are the best of GOAT of all time. Sorry, I graduated from Arkansas.
It's all right. I've been fading Bielema here for a little bit, and it's worked out. This weekend it didn't. So next up we had this is the one I feel best about. I was after the buyout of the Texas Tech debacle. I was recommending the Hoosiers at home, Indiana +21. Really exciting game. I'm glad I was on the right side of that one. Really close game. Went down to the very end, and I believe they lost by 7 to 10ish, something like that. But that was a great pick. And then I think I was debating going between. I think I mentioned that I like Washington State at +19. That would have covered, but I believe that what I actually recommended was Marquise Williams and the Fighting North Carolina Tar Heels, and we were all making a big joke out of it and saying that, I kind of like the game, but I just UNC and Illinois, those are just teams that I'm just going to stay away from because too much heartbreak, too much drama. But, Marquise Williams, I told you he owed me one, so he pulled it out. So the plus, I forget, they were catching +4, +7 or something on the road, and they ended up pulling it out against Georgia Tech. So I believe we finished at 2 and 3 on the recommended plays, and we're looking to improve upon that going into this week.
Nice. And you also gave out Illinois as well, I know.
Oh, Illinois. No, I was joking. I was like, I'm gonna parlay Illinois and North Carolina, and then I was like, what? We can't do parlays on here? But
Nebraska's offense has got to get it together. I don't know what the problem is with their offense, man. They're just not. I took Wisconsin as a dog, and I thought that thing was going to float across 0 this week. We're not on it next week yet, right? We're still recapping.
Yeah, still recapping. Yep. Yeah, no.
But I believe, Alex, if you would have taken Illinois at home as a dog, if I'm not mistaken, it would have covered.
Yeah, they went out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they did.
So hopefully,
because Nebraska should never be a touchdown dog on the road or a favorite on the road. It's ridiculous.
It's just not the same team from last year. It's a case of the paper test. People looking at a team named Nebraska. I mean, and you could tell that they're having problems right now without Amir Abdullah trying to form into this spread out passing game, and they have the weapons there, but they're also missing DeMornay Pearson-L, and it's taken a longer time to get that offense revamped.
Well, Riley's trying to meet him halfway in the middle too. He's trying to do half of what he's used to versus what the players are used to. They're trying to meet in the middle. It's just not working.
It isn't. Yeah, and
it's a recipe for disaster.
I mean, what do you think? What do you think happens when Bielema at Arkansas inherits a Petrino offense? It doesn't work very well, does it?
No.
No, it does not, sir. Kind sir.
To be fair, though, inheriting anything from Petrino is probably not going to work very well.
Especially motorcycles.
He's got good taste in volleyball girls.
Fair enough.
All right, yeah, so...
that volleyball girl still married the swim coach? Can you believe that shit? That girl that he was dinging off the volleyball team at Arkansas, she was engaged to the swim coach at Arkansas. And I'm not lying about this. They still got married. He's now the swim coach at Georgia, and they got married, and she's like a volleyball coach at Georgia. So let me get this straight. Your fiance is dinging Coach Petrino, and you still marry her, and you guys just moved to another state? What a relationship.
Talk about some low self-esteem right there.
Do you ever get into the notes of all that shit? Petrino bought her a Honda Accord. He bought her like a $22,000 Honda Accord.
Well, you gotta keep it low key. You know, you can't buy him the big fancy toys.
That's like somebody asking for an iPod and getting him a Zoom. Like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Oh fuck.
That fucking guy.
Here's an MP3 player. It holds 175 songs. Like, make the most out of it. You know? Gum my taint, man. Gum my taint. Yeah, absolutely. I ended up going 2-3 last weekend. We started off 8-2 the previous 2 weekends. I ended up taking 3 team total overs. First one was LSU and a 20-point first half. Obviously couldn't get it done with that. Surprised that they didn't score at will against Eastern Michigan. Next one was Middle Tennessee, which looked okay at first, but in the end of the first quarter, it was 4th and goal on the Vandy half-yard line, and they ended up fumbling the ball. So once that happened, I pretty much wiped that one away. Army Penn State total opening up at 47.5 was just a pure mockery, in my opinion, and I ended up taking the under in that game, which hit pretty conclusively. And Arizona State team total over was a play that I had mentioned, and that the public was perhaps overreacting after the UCLA win, now coming at home, and Arizona State getting trounced. But getting Arizona State team total anywhere under 24 is just blasphemy, in my opinion. So that one ended up cashing, and to be honest, I don't even remember my last play. I don't.
Must have been a winner then.
Your Middle Tennessee. I mean, your Middle Tennessee one. They had covered every first half and every game up until last week. You know, I mean, I don't blame you on that. And plus, I had a $300 ticket from Nugget from June on openers for Penn State -28 against Army, so I whiffed there too.
yeah, and the thing was, Middle Tennessee has a really nice quarterback with Brett Stockstill, and I mean, he's coming in, he's a freshman. He had thrown for like 1,300 yards in his first 4 games, was just lighting it up. And after a loss against Illinois, coming back at home, kind of a sandwich spot for Vandy between Ole Miss and South Carolina. I just thought it was a nice spot, and Middle Tennessee had been averaging like 42.6 points per game after a loss since 2014. So I figured, why not keep throwing the ball at the hot quarterback? It just didn't end up coming through.
And Murfreesboro does not have a Chipotle, by the way. So let's all keep that straight.
Murfreesboro, whatever. So I'm trying to remember this last play that I had, and it's just murdering my mind right now. I keep pissing me off.
Keep
right,
a documented website like at cchpicks.com.
Yeah, you know, and the thing is, it's like
shameless plug.
You know, you have to run this show.
That's a
you have to run this show. I'm not even kidding. I'll think of it. I'm gonna go back here in a little bit and finish it. But we got week 6 coming up. Once again, a huge slate of games, a lot of value out there. We're going to go around the horn once more. We'll do 3 pods each. And, Rome, you usually give us a good lap or 2 to start off, and I think I need that. So why don't you start off with your play of the day for Saturday or the end of the week, and we can go from there.
All right, cool. Well, I'm glad I'm keeping at least Alex entertained. Hopefully others are enjoying it, the pods and the plays as much as you are. But, yeah, let's get right off to it. And the first game that I'm kind of looking at that, you know, to be completely honest with you, I was looking at the entire slate this weekend, and, you know, there wasn't anything that really jumped out that I immediately thought, oh, you know, home dog, that's great value. Everything was a little bit trickier this week, in my opinion. But, you know, we'll see what my opinion is worth here shortly enough. But yeah, let's start with the Navy Notre Dame game. So Navy's going on the road, playing in South Bend. I'm looking at the under. Let me find the exact number for you right now. I believe it is in the 50s. Sorry, give me one sec.
SMU was my play, by the way, and that was a loser. They got
God, they've fallen off the face of the earth.
yeah, 42 unanswered by East Carolina. That was pretty brutal. I mean, going up 23-7.
Over the total is 55.5. It's 56 at 5 dimes and Bet Online.
There you go, Rome.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah. So it's 55.5. Notre Dame is favored by 14.5. It's a pretty big number. I mean, this Navy team has been pretty consistent this year. They've played well. They are 4-0, so they are undefeated going into this game. Notre Dame is 4-1. Notre Dame is at home. Obviously they I would imagine play better at home. They've got a strong defense. They're still starting Deshaun Kaiser, backup quarterback. But I think that they're going to hang their hats on their defensive prowess, and Brian Kelly's obviously got that team defensively in pretty good shape. Navy also does like to run a lot, and especially kind of the way they manage the game with Keenan Reynolds, they do end up doing a lot of run plays where the clock is just running, raining a lot in the game. So, I think 55 is a pretty high number, especially with the spread being 14.5. So I like the game to go under 55.5, and that's what I'll pick.
Yeah,
you're looking good on that right now. There's 80% of the tickets coming in are on the over, and the thing is sitting on 55, and there's a little bit of a dip down to 54 at some of the books. So with most of the tickets coming in on the over, I love the under. But really, this is a game of the year that I also bought at the Nugget. I bought Navy plus 14, and the reason is because this is the spot of the year for any college football team. Notre Dame just comes off a game against Clemson where they had to travel down in the rain. Terrible loss, hangover spot. But next week is USC. So if you think that Notre Dame gives two shits about this exceptional offense that they have to study for when they got USC, the rivalry next week, plus Navy's 12-4 against the spread and is a away dog. So, yeah, I mean, this is a huge spot for Navy, and it's a reason I bought them back in June with Nugget release. But I like the under, too.
Yeah, Ken Matalolo's got that team geared up in the AAC. One of the teams that could possibly make a run in that conference, in a conference with some pretty good teams when you talk about Memphis and Temple and even Cincinnati. So, Rome, going off that, honestly, all it takes is one 6 or 7 minute drive, and that results in a missed field goal, and you could be in good shape. So I mentioned that a lot when I'm talking about triple option teams, and there's definitely some value there with that. Colin, let's head over to you and dive into what's on your slate for your number one play today.
So last week I was real big on Kansas State coming down to Stillwater to play Oklahoma State. I like them covering the number last week against Oklahoma State. I do think Oklahoma State is a tad overrated, but there's some extremely strong trends for Bill Snyder. He's one of the ones that you can bank on. Some people say trends are just, whatever a team did in 1999 doesn't apply to what a team does in 2015. But Bill Snyder as a coach, on the other hand, is pretty amazing. He's one of the best. I want to say he's top 3 of all FBS coaches covering against his own conference. So as far as trends go, he had a ton of them applying last week. They covered every single number. It opened at 3.5, went up to 7.5. All of them covered. This week, Kansas State opened up, I say it's 7.5, and it's sitting at 9 across the board right now with about 80% coming in. I'll check that. But I think there's 77% coming in on TCU right now, sitting at 9 across the board. Bovada, the square books and sports books, sitting at 9.5. You'll never get your money back from sportsbook, by the way. The LVH is posted at 9.5 if you're in Vegas right now. But so the Horned Frogs, there's so many things coming into this game. That's why it's my favorite one of the week, and I'm going to be tweeting about Bill Snyder all on Saturday. So first off, TCU is on back-to-back road travel, which is a big deal to college football teams. They're coming off of 2 major games. Now, you say Texas Tech and Texas, maybe that's not a major game, but to them it is. It's an in-state rivalry, and with Texas Tech there were so many points scored. I kind of question if they're going to be able to put up a lot of points against Texas. You turn around and put a 50 spot up against the state's premier university, and trust me, every kid that plays Texas high school football wants to beat the living shit out of Texas. So we've got 2 weeks in a row where we've scored a huge major amount of points, and then you start looking at some of the trends. TCU is 1-4 against the spread, last 5 on the road. Kansas State, and here's the reason I love this. Bill Snyder is now on a 10-1 against the spread run after a straight-up loss. So he just lost a game, and he's 10-1 against the spread after he loses. He's 7-1 straight up his last 8 at home. You know that one loss was Auburn last year, right? And then also Think about what TCU did last year. They put up an 80 spot on Texas Tech last year. Everybody was on the TCU train. This is the greatest offense I've ever seen. They go to West Virginia the next week. They win that game by 1 point. So there's a flat spot in their schedule. They're not going to be able to do this every week. And the week after they beat the University of Texas in Manhattan, when they don't give a shit, against the Wizard, who covers all the time at home and after losses, Kansas State +9. You don't even need the 9. If I had to take it, like if I had a prop, I'd say Kansas State loses by 6. I'll even take a prop from anybody. I'll take a live bet right now. I'll PayPal you.
And tell me this isn't right, Colin, that when this slate comes out for Saturday and the numbers are released, that this Kansas State TCU game is the one game where you look at and the sharps are immediately saying, I'm taking Kansas State based on the number alone. A single-digit TCU team that's being hyped up, that has no defense, was giving 7 on the road to a Kansas State team that really is yet, besides last week at Oklahoma State and I guess aside from the triple overtime to Louisiana Tech, has had a hard time scoring points and doesn't really have a lot of flash on the team in 2015 that automatically anybody with a sharp mind is looking at the game right away and saying there's something wrong with this line. I like Kansas State. And if you have half a brain or a quarter of a brain, you know right now that Bill Snyder is one of the best against the spread coaches in all of college football, in which he reiterated. Being at home, a night game on Saturday night, I think it's a death trap to take TCU in this spot. I really do. Yeah,
and the thing is on my CCH picks account, I've only hit them for 1x, and the reason is because I ran into a little bit of an issue last week. So if anybody ever follows my actual Twitter account, CWCCH, you see I bet in $100, $200 increments, right? But then there's service releases by people like the Roz types that come in and they'll lay down dimes and lines they fly out the goddamn door. So even though I cap the game at 6, I see a 7.5, I buy it at 8. A service release could come out and this game could go up to 15. It could go down to 2. So I just wanted to get 1x down at the game at a number that I think is going to win, which is 8.5 was what I took. It's at 9 right now. I'm going to wait until Saturday, and if I see 10, if I can get 10, if I can find 10, I don't care if I have to buy a hook, I'm going to add more to this game. And they're going to be in what we call over at CCH Picks our dirty parlay, which I have to give credit to Alex, because Alex has always got the upset alert going on, and they always seem to find their way into my dirty parlay, which is take a bunch of dogs, round robin, parlay them together, and if you hit 2 or 3 of them, it pays off for the day. They'll be in there.
Awesome. I like it a lot, man. I like it. Good, sharp information from you, as always, Colin, on Kansas State Wildcats, night game Saturday night. Brian, you can go ahead with your first.
Yeah, no, I like Kansas State a lot. I had that circled, but I left that for you, Colin. You requested it. I'm going to go back to one thing Colin mentioned earlier as my first play of the day. It will be the Navy midshipman plus 14.5. I had it written down here as well that I love the sandwich spot that you spoke of. It's too easy for Notre Dame to look over this game. It's a big game because they need to win, especially after a loss, because, like you said earlier, a 1-loss Notre Dame can make the playoffs. A 2-loss, that's going to be a bit of a problem. But off of that tough loss, you got USC on deck. The only advantage I see Notre Dame having is they played Georgia Tech a few weeks back, so they have a rough idea of how to handle the option, but this one's even better and tougher to handle, in my opinion. The midshipmen have always shown that they're more disciplined, I think Keenan Reynolds a much better quarterback than Thomas. Maybe I'm wrong, but also I did some trend digging of my own here, and Navy's 9-1 their last 10 at Notre Dame against the spread, and the road team 16-4 the last 20 in the series against the spread, and Navy is 5-0 their last 5 games against the spread. I like them to keep it within 2 touchdowns. I think it'll be a single-digit game. I think it's actually going to be unless Navy just screws up and fumbles a couple too many times. As long as they can possess the ball and control their game, I think it's a tough, tight game, and Notre Dame will walk away with a small victory.
Navy's just been a covering machine. I mean, you could seemingly just blind bet them these past 5 weeks and make a buttload of money, and you're getting a lot of value with them early on in the season, because I don't think people are starting to latch on to how good this team really is. So we got Navy under Kansas State and Navy plus the points. For my first play of the day, I'm going to go with the Ohio State Buckeyes minus 32.5 when they take the shoe at home versus the Maryland Terrapins. And here's the thing. I've been plagued by saying every week that this is the week that Ohio State jump starts and gets everything going and finally gets that kick that they need to prove the naysayers that they should be number one in the nation. Now, obviously, you look at the past few weeks, slow start versus Hawaii, barely beating Northern Illinois, a sloppy win versus Western Michigan, and then nearly losing in Bloomington last week. I think this was the final straw for Ohio State, and the recipe to get things back ignited is a Maryland team that's probably the worst in the Big Ten and just has had a surplus of trouble trying to find the end zone. And you look at how bad the defense has been, giving up 38 in the first half to West Virginia. You give up 28 at home to Michigan, who runs one of the slowest offenses in the country, an offense that really still has yet to really mesh. And I think this is the perfect week for Urban Meyer to tell his guys, hey, if you don't have a convincing win, then you're going to be out of that number one spot. I think it's a little too late, almost a little too late for Ohio State. This is the last week, I think, that they get that chance to be number one if they don't have a huge win. And as much as I hate to say it, I'm taking the Ohio State Buckeyes minus 32.5. I'll lay the 32.5, and I expect 50-plus from Ohio State. And if they don't, then boot them out of the top 25.
Yeah, just check them out completely. Get out.
If they win by 24, move them back down to like 8 or 9. I mean,
yeah, I think the spread though is interesting. I think the spread is climbing a little bit too much for me up to 33 because I think the thing that gets me about this team is that I said last week I thought Indiana was going to be the game they break out of their offensive funk. Now I'm thinking Maryland's going to be the game that they break out of their offensive funk. I mean, at some point they're going to throw a 50 spot up like they should every single week. And somebody I heard today, one of the podcasts I was listening to, maybe Fallica or somebody, he's just like, when Urban trains it in their brain that their backs are against the walls when they start, producing like madmen. Well, I thought that would come after Virginia Tech. It hasn't happened yet. Numbers wise, it's 50-50 on the ticket count. The number's sitting at 33 right now. As far as the over/under, is 58% going on with the over. Opened at 53 and clipping at 55 on BetOnline, 54.5 across the board. So it looks like the over is going to happen. I might join you and play the Ohio State team total over. I mean, I believe in Ohio State's defense. I really do. But I think maybe I'm just waiting for the game where J.T. Barrett gets the reins and then, boom, they score 60. I think it's going to happen at some point.
Well, I did see somewhere on Twitter, it was yesterday, I think, or the day before, that this is the same time of the year last year Ohio State broke out. Like, up to this time last year, their offensive number of production is almost identical. So it was one of those kind of weird things, and they finally burst it out, and they started trucking people. Could just be Big Ten play, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah, well, you look at Maryland also, and 2 weeks prior they had West Virginia, they get Michigan, they get Ohio State, and they still have Iowa, Wisconsin, Penn State, and Michigan State in the next 4 games. Ooh. And, yeah, I mean, and it's just a daunting trial of Big Ten opponents in a row. And right now the offense is in disarray. Scored 7 points the past 2 weeks. They haven't found a gel yet. I think in Columbus, this is the time where Ezekiel Elliott has to just take the ball and completely take over the game and at least try to help his quarterback out by running for 200 and 250 yards. So my play will be on Ohio State, and I'll lay the chalk. So that's my number one for Saturday. And then we can go around the horn once more and give number 2. Rome, you are up.
Alex, fucking taking the chalk. Interesting. All right.
It's called Talkin Chalk. Yeah,
Talkin Chalk.
This isn't talking dogs, man. We're laying as much chalk and being square as possible.
Alex, if Ohio State loses this game, I want to see you eating chalk sticks on the next podcast.
I'll send a video of me licking chalk off of a concrete sidewalk, dry.
Yeah. All right. So without any further ado, let's move on. Second game I'm looking at here is going to be in the Pac-12. I am looking at Cal and
Utah.
Yeah. So
I can't wait to hear this. Who are you taking?
Yeah.
You can't wait?
I want to hear you taking.
So I'm actually going to go with the under.
You got talked out of it.
I'm going with the
Colin
under.
brings in the whole COVID year for it.
1 minute into the game, you can buy out. All right, 1 minute into the game.
Yeah, you're already at 44 seconds. So you better hurry up.
I'm living off of borrowed time in general. So, but yeah, I'll tell you what though, the over/under is set pretty high, 61.5. Utah has obviously shown that they're a very strong defensive team. They've also shown they're a very strong offensive team, especially when the tempo dictates, like we saw when they went into Oregon, and Oregon was trying to outpace them. Essentially, they were trying to outscore them, and guess what happened? Utah can play that game too. Utah's a very solid team, offensively and defensively, gentlemen. I think we can all agree on that. However, I was interested to see at the bottom of this Yahoo Sports preview that top two teams in the Pac-12 defensively are, in fact, Utah and Cal. And, of course, Jared Goff can go off at any minute. Chances of him doing that in Utah, I think, are not very good. And I think that this is going to be the first time where Cal's could very easily lose this game. I think that if you're going to take, I'm honestly a little bit surprised that it's not a little bit of a lower spread. I would think that it would be maybe like a 3 or a 4, something like that, for favoring Utah just because they're at home. But I think 61.5 is a high number. It kind of has me worried, but at the same time, I'll stick with my gut, and I will go with this being a, if not low-scoring game, as a game that's going to total under 61.5.
Sounds good, man. I like the insight. Yeah. Like it a lot.
That's in the numbers too. Actually, they got 61% on the over, open 64, fall into 61. It's probably going to go lower. Utah's 11 of the last 15 games has been on the under. So, and I actually think I think Cal has a really good shot to win this. They're going to be in my dirty parlay. If I can see that they have an answer for Booker, I'm not really sure they do. But yeah, the under looks like a good play. I like the under in Cal on this one.
So, it's so hard these days to find anybody betting a Pac-12 under. I mean, you'd rather see. You have a better chance of walking into the bar and seeing the Loch Ness Monster, doing a beer bong of Natty Light.
I'm telling you, Alex, I'm thinking about testing the Holy Grail this weekend and taking an under on the Baylor-Kansas game. So I was tweeting about it the other day.
Kansas might not score.
Yeah. The total's at 77. Look at what they've scored against Kansas in years past. Once they got to 60, 59, then there was a 31 in there. It's just, at some point these offenses cannot put 70, 60, 70, 60. They can't do it every single week. And I'm just seeing that the line is at 77, and it's not going anywhere with a flood of over tickets coming in. So, I'm sorry, I kind of sidebarred there, but that's another under. The Holy Grail of overs is Baylor. I think it's maybe a good week to hit the under.
Yeah, could be a 63-7 or 59-3 type of game.
I tweeted it out. It looks like a 61-16 game, so I bet it's actually a 61-14 game, right?
Yeah. And it just a side note, it almost appears like when you look at that game, you think Baylor is going to throw for 600 yards and Seth Russell is going to throw for 7 touchdowns. But once the game starts, it's almost like clockwork that Baylor would go 3 and out their first 2 possessions. I mean, I know there's no real inside information on that one or statistics to back it, but it's just one of those games where you think, 70, Baylor can cover that themselves, and you're watching the game and there's no points scored in the first 10 minutes, and you're kicking yourself in the ass for it. So that's just my take. It seemed like that's how it would go, in my opinion. But Colin, you're up with your second pick.
All right, so I'm going to go. And the theme of October, which you should always take to the bank every year, is flat spots. I am not going to be on Indiana going into Penn State because I don't believe in Penn State, and I don't believe that they can keep anybody off of Hackenberg these days. So I'm going to go to another place. It's a flat spot, and that is going to be taking my beloved Missouri Tigers against the Florida Gators. I grabbed 2 units on +6 earlier today on Bovada. It's down to 5.5 and 5 across the board. It's going to fall to 4.5 before tomorrow. So if you like Missouri, you should probably try to scoop it up right now. So let's talk about what Florida has been doing lately. Besides upsetting Ole Miss last week, the week before that they had a big rivalry game against Tennessee. So they're the emotional tank right now is running a little empty, and they're going up to Columbia for a night game. And if you've been to Columbia, Missouri, which I have, unfortunately, a lot of times, you just want to get out as fast as possible. Missouri is 12-2 on the under as a home dog since 2011. So I expect a low-scoring game. The total's at 40. So getting 6 points is kind of a premium. Florida, and not to mention, I'm sorry, they played Ole Miss and Tennessee at home. Before that, they struggled to beat Kentucky 14-9 at Kentucky. So we're talking 3 SEC games in a row. There's going to be a letdown at some point. And the big thing is the media out of there is reporting that Matty Mock is not going to play. He's got his stuff going on, and Drew Lock is going to take over a quarterback. Well, I got news for everybody. Drew Lock is better. Matty Mock can have 10 years of senior eligibility, whatever. Drew Lock as a freshman is way better than Matty Mock ever is. So I'm going to take Missouri. Stats-wise, numbers-wise, ticket count, we're looking at some very nice RLM coming. We got 72% of the tickets coming in on the Gators. Opened up 4.5, steamed up to 6, down to 5 flat. So this is another case where we got 72% on one team, and the spread's going the other way, and they're in a flat spot off of 3 SEC games in a row, high octane, emotional games.
Like it. You got to think. You made a good point. Totals at 40, calling for a low-scoring game. I mean, Missouri could muster even 14 or 17 points. You could be in a good spot. So that's some pretty superb research calling in on a freshman quarterback in Drew Lock. And what's funny, Colin, is a lot of people will see that and without even looking at any research saying, oh, okay, so we got a freshman coming in. Well, that's a step back. I mean, people don't even do the research and take into account that a freshman's going to be coming in over a senior starter and automatically judge it off of that. So good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. Brian, you are up with number 2.
Yeah, I like that Mizzou pick a lot. I'll get to that pick later in the podcast. But my second play of the day is going to be the Washington State Cougars going to Oregon. 17 points is just ridiculous with those high-powered offenses. Oregon is not good and does not deserve 17 points. They made it through last weekend against Colorado, but it took a while for them to break away in that game. Washington State has a lot of good, as the boys here say, trends going in their favor into that game. They're 5-0 in their last 5 meetings. They're 5-0 the last 5 dogs, 2-0 the last 2 road dogs. Oregon's 0-3 as a home fave this year. Colin, I know, had one the other day he put on there about Mike Leach just basically dominating the series against the spread, especially at Oregon.
Yep.
Everything about this game screams Leach. Actually, Leach does this every year. His team looks like they're going to shit the bed, and then all of a sudden they start putting games together, and they compete almost every game. And this is not the Oregon team you come to expect. Give me Wazoo plus 17.
Love it. I love it. It's another one where we got a little. Like I said, you got a 5-0 against spread in the series against Oregon. They've dominated them, even though Washington State is on back-to-back road travel. Even though they lost to Portland State earlier this year, I've got the game power rated at 13. So no matter what number, I've had like 4 people in my mentions today say, would you take Wazoo at 16? Would you take them at 16.5? I take them anywhere down to 13, period. They're going to cover this game. No matter what is put on the board, they're going to cover this game.
Hey, you heard it. They will cover this game. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. They will cover this game. Nice. I like the Cougars. I like that offense that they run. I think Falk looks good, and River Craycraft's my guy. One of the best names in college football. So
yeah.
I'm on board. Yeah, your guy. So I'm on board with it. For pick number 2, I've been kind of on the edge of picking a few picks, but I'm going to go with my original pick here. And something that I've been trying to do weekly is search for this kind of under-the-radar total, maybe in total that everybody just kind of skims over, doesn't really see any value in. But one total that I like, and I think it'd be a sneaky good play, is the Minnesota-Purdue over 46. I think if you look at last week what happened with Minnesota being shut out by Northwestern, they're going to go into West Lafayette, sitting at 3-2, probably not going to be playing for anything in the Big Ten with implications. Obviously, they're not going to be going to the national title anytime soon. So I think this is a good time for Jerry Kill to kind of open up the offensive playbook, going up against a pretty subpar defensive unit in Purdue. And I think if you look at Minnesota's defense, how good it's been and how tight-knit that unit is, especially their secondary, losing that game in Northwestern kind of brings the sales down just a bit. And the perfect recipe for that is a team that likes to run a faster tempo in Purdue, and hopefully they can muster up some points. I think this game is nothing where it's going to be a shootout and exchanging scores, but I think 45 right now is too low. And I just think this is a game where there will be zero fucks given, to be perfectly honest. And that's the first time that I've sworn on the podcast, but it called for it, baby. Oh, it called for it.
Love it.
Get it?
Yeah, I love it, dude. I love where the intensity's at right now. So give me the Minnesota Golden Gophers, Purdue Boilermakers over the total at 45 for my under the radar total of the day. Love it. And we are going to do our pick number 3, starting with Rome. Give me something good, man. Give me something good.
Guys, let me give you a good laugh on this one.
Uh-oh. He's already bought off his under. He's taking the Cal Utah over as his third play of the day.
Guys, I'm fading myself no matter what happens in this one. No. You know what? I originally the play that I really liked this week, going into the whole thing before I listened to Colin Cowherd in the morning on fucking NBC radio. But anyways, I really thought I was really interested in this Northwestern Michigan under, and I looked at the game, saw it was at 35. That's suspiciously low. I mean, that's really low. That's got to be one of the lowest totals of the year thus far. I mean, literally all it's going to take is one pick six or one botched play to score, and that the over under could be ruined in that game. I was also kind of leaning and looking at Oklahoma Texas. For some reason I liked the over and or Texas plus 17, but they're such a mess. We're going to go ahead and stay away from that. We can do better than that. I was looking. Could you guys let me know if so Iowa State, the Cyclones going into Texas Tech.
Getting 12.5.
12.5 or 11.5. 11.5, 12.
Getting 11.5. Open at 12.5 down to 11.5. Just
got it. Is Texas Tech is Mahomes still healthy? Is he still looking okay?
Mahomes should be a go, yeah.
He's good.
Yeah. I'm just I was gonna say I really like. I just want to. First of all, I just love having Colin and his his knowledge and his statistics a part of this podcast.
I have very strong opinions on this Iowa State Texas Tech game, so I'll let you go, and then I'll fill in some holes.
Dude, why don't you just marry him, Rome?
Well, if I drink enough fucking straight bourbon tonight, I just might.
I will never be married ever again. Fuck that, never. And you know what? I know the ex-wife trolls my Twitter account, so fuck that. I'll never.
Perfect. Well, we got a new segment coming up.
You guys got to pay attention to Colin's accounting. He was referencing this to the Marlins man today being cheaper than his divorce, for Christ's sake.
It is. It's cheaper to be divorced than to sit next to him at these playoff games.
Smart man.
Sorry, Rome. Continue.
All right, guys. I'm sorry. I'm just okay. I had 2 plays that I was kind of looking at. I'm trying to decide between both of them.
Just give them.
Originally, I was really looking at that under at the Michigan Northwestern under. I just read that I guess Michigan lost one of their DNs last game, so he's not going to play. However, Harbaugh usually has his guys, especially at home, ready to go. Northwestern has definitely shown us that they have a legit defense. I mean, I could see this game potentially being something like 24-10, something around there. At first, I kind of liked Michigan to win. Now I'm not really so sure. I was also looking at the Oklahoma State at West Virginia over/under. It's set at 59.5. West Virginia is definitely a little bit better of a defensive team than I thought and that I was giving them credit for. Of course, we know that Oklahoma State likes to run high-tempo offense, and I mean they're undefeated. They're 5-0, but they've barely squeaked by some games. Just the last second with the help of their kicker. This is. I think I started out this entire segment by saying that it's really I'm not too sure on a lot of these matchups this week. It's just, you know what? I'll tell you what. Let's stick with the original lean. What I really wanted to do. Let's stick with Northwestern and Michigan. Alex, I'd love to hear your opinion on this since you cover Michigan so closely. But yeah, let's stick with the under on that. Let's stick with the under 35. It's a super low number. That was my original lean, so I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad play at all. I think when you look at both of the teams, they're ranked in the bottom 10 in terms of explosive plays. Teams that don't necessarily have a hurry to get to the line. Obviously, look at both defenses. Is the side of the ball that's been carrying both, and what Michigan's done on defense the last few weeks is just incredible, to say the least. So this one's going to come down to either turnovers, special teams, penalties that can set up shorter drives and smaller fields. So for this one to go over, I don't think that it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be something where if the game goes and it plays out normally, that it's going to go over. I think it's going to need a special teams return for a touchdown. I think it's going to need a pick six, a late score, backdoor. I don't think this game's set up to be anywhere near a track meet, obviously. But I don't see any team busting off a lot of huge plays. I think you're going to see a lot of running the ball, trying to establish the ball, and almost a game where we have more possession than you, then we're going to win the game. So I don't think that you're.
Let me ask you a question about this game because I haven't bought it yet because I'm kind of holding out a glimmer that hook will go away, but I'm going to be on Michigan because I absolutely think Michigan's going to win this game at least by 8 points. Now here's my problem. I think they might pitch a shutout. I mean, I think they might absolutely pitch a shutout. Can they score 35 points? I'm not sure if they can, but if I had to be as sharp as I could on this game, looking at the numbers alone and watching Michigan the last few weeks, I think taking a Northwestern team total under and taking a Michigan to cover the 7.5 is two winners in this game. I'd be careful with the under because I mean, as Alex said, I was watching Iowa State Kansas last week, and Kansas all of a sudden had a fucking pick six for 90 yards and returned a punt, and I mean it was just a sickness, about these points how they're getting scored by Kansas. I just be careful, because you never know what's going to happen with special teams. But I feel like a Northwestern team total under and Michigan easily covering 7.5 in this game is the read that I'm getting.
I had originally posted for Mason Brew at SB Nation my pick for all the Big Ten matchups, and making the Michigan-Northwestern pick, I originally wanted to take the under. However, when it came out, all I kept seeing was everybody say, oh, this game's going under, this game might not hit 20, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, obviously it scared me off. Obviously there's a surefire sign that says there's not going to be a lot of points scored in this game. However, I don't feel like getting burned by a second half that has 21 or 24 points. 35 points is obviously not a lot. You rarely see even NFL games that low nowadays. So I ended up taking Michigan minus the 8 points I wanted to say. I just think that they're a lot better team than everybody says that they are. And people say, okay, well, look at their competition. A BYU team in a bad spot, UNLV, Oregon State. Yeah, but they are literally manhandling each opponent in the trenches in every aspect.
They're getting better every week.
And the thing that's really kind of keeping the glue for this team is Jake Rudock and how he's matured. And I think he's been playing lights out. And when you look at compared to week one, his reads are much better. He's not forcing the ball. He's getting out of the pocket. Davion Smith is healthy. There's receivers and tight ends everywhere stepping up. There's not a big-name guy, but you don't need a big-name guy when you're, trying to establish the run and when you're leaning on your defense. So it's a balanced group, and I think that Michigan flexes their muscle on Saturday. They're playing a team that's ranked 13th in the nation. There's no reason to lay down. This is not a bad spot for Michigan. They're going to come ready to play in the big house. The crowd's going to be absolutely rocking. A freshman quarterback coming in to the big house against a defense that's given up 7 points, and I can't tell you how long. But I mean, give me Michigan minus the 7.5. I said 24-13 in my prediction, but I don't even think Northwestern scores over 10 points.
You and I are going to have a date in 2 years, Alex. Arkansas is coming up there in 2018.
Who says I'll be there, Colin?
Guys,
we're making assumptions.
I'm completely with you, Alex. I think 24. I kind of saw this game going like 24-10, but just to give you an idea of how risky this game is, 24-10 total. That's a total of 34 points. That'll cover. If there's a pick six at the end of the game, it ends up being 24-17. Boom, that ruins both of the lines right there. The over/under and Michigan covering 7.5. So it's a risk. It's a risky play, but yeah, let's go with it.
All right, Colin, you're up for number 3.
So, lightly mentioned was the Texas Tech Iowa State game. I am firmly on the @CCH Picks Twitter handle. I was on Iowa State earlier today. I took Iowa State plus 12. This is another game. I mean, you look at my list. I've got a bunch of dead numbers. So a dead number is something that we interpret. Alex knows these well because dogs that are 7.5 to 9 or sitting around like a 10.5 or 11 up to 12.5, that's a dead number, and it's kind of a trigger for me to look at it and say, hey, what the hell is going on here? Texas Tech, again, we're talking about a flat spot here where we've had Arkansas, big win. We've had TCU, high octane, 52-55 game. Now we just got done playing Baylor in a 63-35 game, where I think 42 points were scored in the first quarter. So, that's 3 games in a row that have been high emotional games, and now we have to play Iowa State. I'm taking Iowa State, and I'm taking the plus 12, and I'm not even looking back. As far as in any of the trends, I don't have a lot of trends to back it up. I just know that 77% of the tickets are coming in on Texas Tech. The thing is hanging on a dead number. Iowa State is feisty. They're one of those teams that I say they play to the level of their competition. So if they're playing an FCS team like North Dakota State, they're going to play to actually North Dakota State is pretty good. So they play to the level of the competition that they're in the game. But I love the 12 here. I think 12 is too much. I have it power rated as actually a 4-point game. So I'll take Iowa State. I'll take the Cyclones all day. I also hit the make sure I don't get this wrong. I also hit the under. I don't want to mess up why, but I hit the under. I hit under 75, and that's because the over was just getting pummeled in this game, and it wasn't going anywhere. And I've got a trend on Iowa State unders, but I'll look that up. I'll tweet it out. But I like the under in this game. I like the plus 12 with Iowa State, and they're going to be in my dirty parlay too because Tech, Arkansas. There's just too many games in a row with TCU, Baylor. We're talking the meat sandwich of the Big 12 and a huge victory against Arkansas. This is the deflate week.
Sounds good to me, man. And you look at Texas Tech, the last 2 games they played, just playing 2 of the top offenses in the country. That's going to play a big part in people coming on the over in that game as well. So I like where your head's at. That game just screams trap to me. It really does. Brian, go ahead, man. We haven't talked in like 25 minutes. I'm still glad you're still here.
Well, it's a pretty winded crowd I'm with today, so I'm just sitting back and enjoying.
Yeah.
My third and final play of the day today is tossing it up between 2 plays. I'm gonna roll the dice here on the Central Michigan Chippewas plus 7 at Western Michigan. A few things going in Central Michigan's favor is they have been doing very well actually off of bye weeks, 9-3 against the spread of buys, 6-0 their last 6 against the spread on the road, 4-0 their last 4 dogs, 2-0 last 2 on the road as a dog. I am a little concerned about Western Michigan coming off a bye week to rest up, but Central Michigan, they haven't played the hardest schedule, they haven't played the easiest schedule, but I think a touchdown in a conference game, Central Michigan hangs around. They might even win this game because I'm not high on Western Michigan unless I'm missing something. But give me Central Michigan plus 7.
Okay. See, those are 2 teams that I really I'm either wrong on or just really have scarce knowledge on right now in terms of the MAC. I haven't looked too much into the MAC, but in-state rivalry should be a good one. For me, I'm going to go with the Rice Owls plus 3.5 on Saturday. We'll be traveling to Boca Raton to play the Florida Atlantic Owls. I just think the wrong team's favorite here. And in my personal opinion, I do. I think that Rice is a better coach team. David Bayless, one of the most underrated coaches in the Conference USA. He came in 2006, took a little bit of time to kind of string together a somewhat decent unit. From 2012 to 2014, he racked up 25 wins, most in a 3-year span in Rice history. Things are going questionable, if that makes sense for Rice. They played Baylor, Texas, Western Kentucky, gave up a buttload of points. Florida Atlantic is coming off a bye, but Baylor's also been to 3 straight postseason berths. If you lose this weekend, you go to 2-4 with Louisiana Tech and Southern Miss still waiting. So I think I want to say this is a do or die for the Rice Owls, but I think getting the hook on the 3 works out for me, and I'll take a pretty good quarterback in Jervis Jackson to go down to Florida Atlantic and oust the Owls of Florida Atlantic. So that's my play. for Saturday, round that one up, and then we're gonna do one upset pick alert each. Rome, might as well just keep the format going.
All right. So sorry guys. Let me quickly scour what we have here. And
Actually, you know what? Let's not necessarily call it upset alert. Let's call it the dog of the day, and a team that you think could win on the money line. Let's call it like that, because we'll play the cards like that.
Okay. Well, yeah. Let's look at a matchup that excuse me, that we've already talked about a lot today. Sorry, give me one quick sec here. If you guys want to circle back to me, honestly, I probably need a little bit of time.
No worries, Colin. Go ahead, man.
I'm gonna go with.
Colin.
I'll go with 10. I mean, I got a few of them, of course, because I've always got my dirty parlay. It's got like 7 or 8 dogs in there, but I'll start off with Tennessee. Besides not being a big believer in Georgia, which I never have been, Georgia is 0-5 against the spread. This is just like Washington State and Oregon. Georgia is 0-5 against the spread as a road dog, and they're a loser in this series. I think last week was just going to be too much for them to handle. Tennessee, on the other hand, they should have a bottle rocket up their ass after losing to Arkansas. So I'm seeing it in the numbers too as far as the ticket count, because there is a heavy amount of public backing on Georgia. Tennessee just sitting there at that 3 points at home. I love this spot for Tennessee. I think they're very well coached. No matter that Arkansas went in there and beat them, I think they're very well coached. Arkansas was due. I mean, I hate to say that, and I'm definitely not a homer. If you guys follow me on Twitter, I'm more contrarian about my alumni than anything. They were due to break out. So, I mean, Tennessee was just in a bad spot. So, with over 70% of the tickets coming in on Georgia, Tennessee +3, I would just take the money line. You don't even need the points. Rocky Top.
Awesome. It's a very nice play. Just it all depends on if they're playing for Butch Jones or not. They seem to half the locker room hates that guy, but I totally agree. Their talent levels there. They should have beat they maybe should have beat Arkansas. Should have beat Florida. Should have beat Oklahoma. This team's a lot better than the numbers are showing. It's just a matter of finishing. I think you're onto something, because Georgia, they got smacked around. I think I didn't see it. You'd know it better than I would. There seemed to be like a trend last year or something. Teams after playing Alabama, similar to teams after playing Seattle, like the Seahawks, they seem to get roughed up. There's an under trend or something on that one.
Yeah, you're right. It's more of control in the line of scrimmage. Of your interior linemen are beat up. But yeah, I got to dig that trend up. If I can get it tweeted out, I will. But yeah, week after playing Alabama, not a good spot to be backing.
Yeah, it's a good pick. Very good pick.
Go ahead, Brent.
My pick was already discussed earlier, so let's make it real easy. I love the Missouri Tigers this week to beat Florida. Florida just came off one of their biggest games of the year, obviously. Ole Miss comes into town, talk of the town, beat Bama 2 weeks ago, and they throttled them. Greer played great, played probably his best game of the year, maybe the best game of his career. Going into Mizzou, like Colin said, very shitty, hostile atmosphere on a Saturday night. And Drew Lock is legit. So we'll make this my doggy lock of the week, the Missouri Tigers.
Like it.
Dude, I did there, Alex. Did that for you.
Yeah, I do. I like Pinko's Tigers this weekend as well. For me, this is double shot of Clorox, a line of Pop Rocks, and a 40 of King Cobra, and then you can hit something on this play. I like the Wyoming Cowboys +24.
Ooh,
and I also gave them out as my long shot money line.
I saw you write that up. I hit them on opener because I just say this. I'm proud of you, because I hit them on the opener because I have this game as like a 15-point game, and I thought 24 was too much. And then I saw your article. I loved it. You said flat out money line on Wyoming. That is. I'll let you do it, but I was like, wow, I love it. I love it so much. It's so ballsy.
Yeah,
well, 24-point dog, lay in the wood.
Hey, I got some trends for Alex. If he doesn't throw him down, I'm gonna give him for him after he gets done.
I was planning to do this article I have a nice gap in between classes, a nice hour and a half gap, and I wanted to do it. I'm in my early class and wanted to come home and dig up how Air Force responded after a rivalry game versus Navy. And sure enough, Troy Calhoun for Air Force is 0-5 against the spread after playing Navy, and it hasn't even been close. So I think when you look at Wyoming coming in, obviously has nothing to play for. It's a scary discrepancy between how a team wants to come out, if they want to open up a playbook and really just pull out all the stops and not care, or do they want to just lay down? And I think Air Force is in a vulnerable spot coming in off a loss to Michigan State, off a loss to Navy where they struggle to move the ball. I know Wyoming's defense is absolutely brutal, but still, when you look at it, Wyoming, a respectable yard per game average at 394, which ranks 70th in the nation, not bad. What's really hindering this team is that they're not translating their drives into scores. They're only averaging 19 points per game. So with that, I think Air Force can score, but I actually think Wyoming can score some points on Air Force this weekend. I think Wyoming goes into Air Force and beats them by 3.
Shocks the world.
I love it. If you want some extra trends, which that whole Air Force off of an academy game, off of a rivalry game, that's a big deal. Wyoming is 6-0 against the spread against Air Force in this series. So the last 6 they've covered, they've had no problems with Air Force. They're also 11-4 against the spread and as a away team since 2013. There's no overlook for either team. Well, Air Force has Colorado State if they consider that to be a pretty close, driver rivalry or whatever. But no, it's a great spot for Wyoming. You know what? I might have to put them in my dirty parlay too. Just. I mean, what is that on 5 dimes? You know what it is off the top of your head?
What's that?
What the actual money line is on them?
Dude, honestly, it wasn't even up.
I'll look at it.
A lot of those big ones aren't up yet. But I mean, if you had to guess what, like, I don't even think I could put a number on that. $9,000.
Plus 1335.
And here's the thing.
Alex.
Yeah, not bad. I shot in the dark. Craig Bull's Cowboys last season, one of the weirdest teams in the nation. When I say the weirdest team in the nation, they were 6-0 to the team total over on the road last year, where they were at home they were 0-6 to the team total over. They've only scored 14 points on the road in both occasions on the road versus Appalachian State, a much improved defense, and Washington State, who obviously doesn't have a good defense, but still, I mean, Wyoming had a nice first half versus Washington State. I think they went up 7-0 and were only down by 3 at half. So if this hits, I might just retire. I might just
retire from school.
Right?
Might call it quits and just end on a high note. So
yeah,
that's me. Wyoming Cowboys plus 24, maybe outright. That's my mortal lock of the weekend. And Rome. Rome, you're back to the podium.
Ladies and gentlemen, good things come to those who wait. So let's get into 3 leans that your boy Rome has officially kind of looked at and wants to talk about. So I'm looking at Brian. I'm looking at your Badgers to go into Nebraska. Nebraska's favored about 1.5. Yeah.
Make sure you're drinking heavily for that one.
Hey, I'm already drunk right now, so let's go. We're good. Wisconsin's 3-2. I know Stavi put up a shitter last week. It looks like Mike Riley's got the Huskers at the 2-3 start. They're missing a couple pieces, as Alex mentioned earlier. And I still think Wisconsin's a decent enough program to. I just think that number is really low. Nebraska at home minus 1.5. Something seems off with that. Do with what you want with that. Let's also look at Illinois. Let's look at Illinois on the road. Let's see, what are we at? They are at. Sorry, guys. Iowa, yeah.
Plus 11.
Plus 11. I mean, Iowa's looked really strong this year so far. 5-0. Their defense looks great. They've got a cornerback or defensive back by the last name of King, who is really kicking some ass this year. However, I just kind of like the spot. Illinois is 4-1. They can score offensively. I'll take them to cover 11, even on the road. And let's also look at Indiana, the Hoosiers. The Hoosiers, coming off of a tough loss. Obviously, they wanted to make a statement against Ohio State. They almost got it done. They are, sorry guys, they are they are playing Penn State in Penn State in Death Valley, I believe, in Rape Valley. We can call it that, I think, by now. There's no line set for this game, which is especially kind of shady and troublesome. I know that a couple of the followers want us to talk about this game in general. I think the Hoosiers have really surprised people with their performance this year thus far, and Sudfield's looked pretty good. He can definitely move the chains. They've got a stud running back, as they usually will recycle or kind of cycle in and out if they lose. If they lost Coleman last year, and they got Old Boy this year, who's doing a great job. So there isn't a number, at least that I can see, for this game yet, but I'll take Indiana to hopefully come in as a good dog in that game as well.
Well, that's it for that. So here's the thing, guys. We have 3 games that were brought to our attention to do. So let's just do this. We'll go right around the horn. We'll say what we like out of the game and give 1 sentence on why we like it, and just do rapid fire. Okay? Sound good?
Ready.
Sure.
All right. So
Yeah.
the first one from my boy OG Betts, Mr. at OG Betts. He's a Penn State guy, Indiana Penn State. I like Penn State -8. Bad spot for Indiana coming into Happy Valley after that loss. I think Penn State's a team that's been gelling, and I think that they're going to suppress Indiana's offense with Sudfeld and Howard both questionable. Rome, you said you like Indiana, so we'll head over to you, Colin.
Yeah, this is supposed to be the spot of the year because for Penn State, because Indiana should be completely flat, but I'm not seeing that in the numbers. We got a 6.5 point spread, which is really a lot lower than I thought it should be, about 7.5. 88% of the money is on Indiana, and the number is falling. The number is falling. So that tells me that they posted up this 7. 88% comes in on Indiana, down to 6.5. You see this thing trickle down to 6, down to 5. Then Indiana's going to win this game. And the thing is, Penn State has overlooked a Michigan, which is a big deal. I know that they really take that game seriously, and they might not take Indiana very seriously. I don't know what's going on. That Army game, I don't think that was a fluke. I don't think they were overlooking to Indiana. They can't keep people off Hackenberg. There's something wrong with the defense. I don't know. If I gun to the head, Indiana, it's scary because they shouldn't. Right? They should be flat after that game last week with Ohio State. Numbers aren't saying that, though.
Really? Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I echo that. Everything looks bad in Indiana's favor. They just played their big game. They should come out flat. But Penn State's been garbage. Hackenberg, for the second straight year, has not been the Hackenberg they've claimed. Maybe it's because he can't stay upright. You looked at Temple just destroy them over and over again. Every team that's played them has gotten to him and sacked him. It's just he has no time to throw.
Terrible. Offensive line is terrible.
It's so difficult to give a touchdown on a team that can't even keep their quarterback upright enough to score a touchdown themselves. Like Colin said, I wouldn't play the game, but gun to head, I'd have to take Indiana. But it's just going to be a shit fest in that game.
Yeah, it should be, shouldn't it? Another one that we had was Central Michigan, Western Michigan. Brian, you said you like Central Michigan in that game, correct? Plus the 7?
Yeah, plus 7.
Okay. All right, and then my buddy Tyler, big ECU fan. ECU goes to BYU rather. 9.5 point underdogs to the Cougars, and right now the total's sitting at 56. BYU -856. I don't have a take on this game because I don't like either team. I don't like playing either team. Gun to my head, I'm taking BYU minus the 8 points.
Yeah, I mean, the only notes I've got on it, I haven't played it myself. The only notes I've got on it is that I power rated the game as BYU -9. It's sitting at -8 across all the books, 7.5 at Bet Online at -115. 63% of the tickets are coming in on BYU, which makes you think East Carolina is probably the side at a dead number like 8, but ECU is on back-to-back road games here, so if you got to put some money down on it, follow, go upstream. Don't follow the ticket count. So play the Pirates here.
Yeah, I had ECU on my list actually. Almost put them in as a play of the day, but the more I dug into it, I couldn't find enough to really sway me and make me make it a play. But BYU, they got lucky so much this year. They're Mangum's a good quarterback. Maybe they'll break out. They do play great defense, but ECU historically has played pretty good defense. Um, I know SMU is not your defensive standard, so take that with a grain of salt. But getting 8 points, I'd take ECU. But like I said, the more I looked into it, I couldn't make it an actual play for myself.
Yeah, feel you on that one. Two teams I just don't have enough enough capacity to really play. Two teams that have burned me in the past, so there's some bad blood with both of those. Rome, do you have anything on ECU or ECU and BYU rather?
Not much. I'll agree with the guys though. I think Mangum's magic has kind of run out. I think he's past 2 games in a row. He's been okay, but he's kind of regressed, kind of back down to where we thought he would be. I'm also looking at ECU as 84th in FBS as far as yards per game. It looks like they're 56th versus 60th compared to BYU. Give me the points. Give me ECU +8 going into BYU, and yeah, I think there's a decent chance that they might actually even win that game straight up. So, but yeah, I'll take the points in Eastern Carolina.
Good. Last one was Miami at Florida State. Hurricanes +8.5. Total open up at 49 is up to 51.5. Brian, let's start with you. Anything you like in the Florida State Miami game?
I want to take Miami getting 10, 9, whatever they're getting now. I want to. Al Golden has found every possible way to ruin that team. Watching that game against Cincinnati last week was just an absolute debacle. Like, that was just the most embarrassing. Brad Kaya is a good quarterback, and they just can't do anything right. And Florida State, as much as we talked in the past, Alex, and I hate Everett Golston with a passion, he's actually been kind of managing games this year, which is pretty surprising for him. It's a rivalry game. I like to say Miami keeps within a touchdown. I'd go with Miami.
Yeah, I'll go the opposite on that. I'm actually going to go. I got a couple things working towards it. Ticket counts coming in 66% on the Hurricanes as visitors, opened up 9.5, sitting on a dead number of 9. Miami is 0-4 against the spread as an away dog. Really, really small sample size, but it's like Bubba just said. I don't. Al Golden's just ruining this team. He's ruining the quarterback, and as far as I can read from the numbers, Florida State's going to cover the 9, but so I'll go opposite. But I'm not going to have any actual money down on it.
Yeah, no action as well for me. No. If I'm leaning anyway in this game, I think I would, gun to my head, I'm taking Florida State minus the 8.5. Even with Miami off of 8 days of preparation, I think looking at last year, Brad Kaya was 1 play away from beating Florida State. Pardon me?
That's so much money on Miami that game. That was a rough game.
Yeah.
Every second half of Florida State last year was a rough game.
I don't doubt. Yeah, no, one of the terrible teams to play, honestly. I don't doubt Brad Kai's ability, because I think he's set out to be what everybody else said he is, and he's really matured coming into his sophomore year, and he's really grabbed the reins. I just don't trust the defense, and I think this could be a game where Florida State runs wild on offense. So I'll say Florida State 34-20. In that case, I like the Seminoles in the over. But just a lean, nothing too strong. But if I had to give my opinion, that's what it is. Rome, go ahead and close them out.
Nothing strong. I'm just going to close out by saying that Dalvin Cook is, if he does play this game, he's questionable to play. If he does play, he's not going to be 100%. That alone makes me want to take the Hurricanes. I think Al Golden has been waiting. I was looking at the stats on this game because I was actually thinking of making it a play of the day. As I did a little bit more reading, as I dug a little deeper, there were some bad trends. Al Golden's got some bad statistics on the road, and not only on the road, but against Florida State in general as well. However, I would have thought that the spread would have been a little bit higher, in favor of Florida State, and it might be the way it is because of Dalvin Cook's questionable status. However, I'm going to take Al Golden, the Hurricanes at +8 to or 8.5, whatever it is, to go ahead and I mean, shit, if not win, then at least hopefully make it a close game. So give me the Hurricanes.
Well, there you have it. Recaps, pods, upset alerts, giving the fans what they want, because obviously giving 12 plays of the day isn't enough. People need us to gloss over their goddamn games. Oh my god. Just
So
kidding,
grouchy.
guys. Yeah, it's getting late. It's getting late. It's getting later. It's only 9:40 where you guys are at. It's getting.
I know, and I'm getting past my bedtime.
Any closing thoughts, guys, heading into week 6?
Take Army over Duke.
Oh, the one thing I was looking at, that's actually the other game I had circled. Tell me if I'm wrong. The number's going down, but I like the under in that game. Army could chew up that clock, and Duke's offense has been so abysmal, and
Yeah,
that defense is actually pretty good. I love the under in that game.
Duke's offense sucks. Jameson, Crowder, gone. Their offense sucks.
I've had enough of Army, man. That cost me so much money, but these motherfuckers better pay me this weekend.
Nice,
I just want to say I'm looking at this. I'm looking. I mean, Ole Miss put up such a stinker against Florida last week in the Swamp that I'm just curious to see how they rebound. They're going against New Mexico State, 0-4. I mean, it's a shit game. I'm not going to watch it, but just curious to see how they play. We'll see how they get back on track.
All right. Well, that should wrap it up. Colin, thanks again for coming on, man. Really appreciate you taking the time and giving your knowledge and letting the people know how it is, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. I loved it.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Well, guys, thank you for tuning in. Again, you can catch us on Twitter. We'll be shooting plays again throughout the week and as Saturday rolls on. So good luck with your action. God bless. Stay safe, and cash tickets as always. Thank you very much.